Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So continuing in Mishnah 2, we were talking about the idea of Torah requires derech eretz to go along with it. They go together, not just by itself, but you have to have derech eretz. The question was, what did derech eretz mean? We we have a few different ways of understanding the words derech eretz. One is just social ethics, as we've talked about in the past. But also in this case, many of the commentators refer to it as earning a living or doing something in the work department. And it kind of flows into the next part of the Mishnah. We're going to come back to it as well. So we're just going to read it again. Gamliel, the son of Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi, said, Yofa Talmud Torah im derech eretz, that study of Torah is best and is proper with derech eretz. Here it translated with occupation. She'agia shenehem mashkachas avon, that in exerting yourself in both of them will cause you to forget sin, and therefore you won't sin. V'chol Torah she'eni ma malacha, this is the new part, and any Torah that does not have work that goes with it, sofa betela, in the end it's going to be wasted. V'goreres avon, and will cause sin, it will lead to sin. It's kind of it, if you translate the first part as derech eretz as referring to work, this seems to be very, very similar. So just a couple of thoughts. We're going to sort of bounce back and forth on the derech eretz aspect and the work going together. So Rabbi Twersky mentions, she says in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, that when a person works, Torah has to be there too. It's not like you have the Torah world and the business world, and you go to business and you throw out all the Torah laws. It doesn't work that way, but it's part of it, and therefore, when a person, number one, there's a few different aspects to that. One aspect of that is that when a person is working in any business endeavor, the laws of the Torah are with you, and therefore you are going to, number, follow the laws. B, you're going to be thinking about them because you have to know what to do. So when you're facing different situations in your business day, then you're thinking about Torah, you're thinking Torah thoughts because you're thinking of how to conduct yourself. So Torah automatically belongs in there. And secondly, if you have time, as many of you are doing right now, as you're taking a break from your day, and we're studying Torah. So during your lunch break, etc., Torah when you have time off. And he brings a story of a certain chassid who went to his Rebbe about he had a business and his business was failing. And it was a business he had inherited from his father, who had done very well, and he wasn't doing so well. And the Rebbe asked him, what do you do when your customers are, you don't have any customers? When you basically nobody's around, what do you do? So he said, I read the paper, keep busy. He says, that when your father didn't have customers, he learned Torah. So he said that the difference is as follows, that the Yetzer Hara, right? The Yetzer Hara, he didn't want your father to learn. So he sent him customers. So therefore, so this way he had to have customers so he wouldn't have the time to learn. You're reading the paper anyway. The HR doesn't need to send you customers, so you're not making a business, right? So we have an idea that we also know that the Yetzer Hara comes to fill you. He's going to bother you when you're trying to do something useful, and that's the time. That's the time when you're already not doing something useful. He doesn't need to bother you anymore. He's got you already. So that's one important idea. Another idea, which is I thought was very interesting, that Irving Bunin brings down, is he talks about, again, the idea of, we talked about it yesterday a little bit, about filling time, that when there's a void and you're bored, right, you end up doing things that you shouldn't be doing because you have nothing else to do. And he quotes a verse in the Torah, a famous verse in the story of Yosef. So we know that the brothers, when they wanted to get rid of Yosef, they threw him into a pit. And the Torah there says that the bor was empty, the pit was empty. It says v'habor reik ein bo mayim. The pit was empty, there was no water. And the Talmud discussed, like, if there was no water, so if it was empty, then obviously there was no water. So why does it say there was no water and it was empty? So the Talmud says it was empty of water, but there were other things in it. There were snakes and scorpions, and it was dangerous, and a miracle had to happen to save Yosef. And this is brought in the Gemara in Shabbos. Rashi brings it down. And he says an interesting idea, that when a pit is empty, when the bor is ready, the pit is empty, it fills up with serpents. It fills up with snakes and scorpions because it's a vacuum. He says when a mind is empty, he says it becomes like a snake pit. It also, nature abhors a vacuum. When your mind is empty, all kinds of bad things are going to come into it. So all of the least desirable things are going to come in to fill it up. And he said that's the idea we can take from this as well. A couple of other ideas in terms of Torah and work. So Rashi and some others bring down an idea that, says, listen, you know what do you need to work for? Well, just learn all the time, 24 hours, just learn. And we know it's a great thing to do, ideally. Problem is, how are you going to eat? And this is what's going to happen is, and we're not talking about where someone's supporting you. Okay, we're not talking about where someone's paying you to learn. Okay, you're just going to learn and that's it, and not worry about food. Well, you're going to start worrying about food. You're going to come to do something dishonest because everybody needs to eat. So at something's going to happen that you're going to be desperate for food. You're going to get in trouble. So therefore, a person should make sure that they're able to make a living as well, and you can't rely that you're only going to study without making a proper living. I think we mentioned this idea yesterday in a way from the Kotzker Rebbe that if you're both learning and working, you're so busy you don't have time to sin. Another idea also from Irving Bunim, he talks about the idea that it says melacha. It says Torah that doesn't have melacha. Now the word melacha, we generally translate it as work, but we know with regard to Shabbos, right, what the prohibited activities are called melacha. And melacha is not just work and whatever work might be, but it's creative activity. It's a type of work that's creative. So here also he says, malacha is, when the Torah says Torah with malacha, it means with creative activity. If a person is just learning and they're not being creative, they're not doing anything with it, then that's going to end up going to waste. You have to take what you've learned and put it to practical use, because if you're not, then it becomes butt-tail, it becomes nullified, it's meaningless. There's no purpose of learning all of the Torah ideas and all of the laws and all of the ethics if you don't put it into practice. And therefore, Torah without the malacha, without the creative activity, will ultimately become batal, become nothing. Another angle that's also brought down is malacha from the idea of work is, you know what? You could look at it and say, there's Torah and there's work. But actually, Torah itself requires work. It doesn't just happen that, I'm going to open the book and everything comes into my head and boom, I've got it. You have to actually work at it. In order to really understand it, there's a lot of depth, especially when you're learning the Talmud. And, we have our Talmud group in the morning and we're working at it. The rule is we don't want to use ArtScroll. We want to be able to be able to work it out ourselves without getting someone else feeding it to us, right? So in order to do that, you have to work at it. It's not like you just read it and you understand it. You have to think about it, and the people who are really the sages put in hours and hours and years. These are the people who is the big sages. Yes, they have to be very smart, but they also had to put in 16 hours a day for 20 years in order to be able to get to where they are. So it requires depth, but it requires work. And the Torah actually alludes to that in Parshas Bechukosai, when it talks about in Bechukosai Telechu, and if you'll go in my ways, and Rashi brings down there the idea of amelim the Torah, to be toiling. So malacha, the idea here is also that you have to work at it, and if you don't work at it, then you forget it. Then it becomes betela, it's going to disappear, because also most people don't have photographic memories and are not able to remember everything right away. So you have to we know that when you engage in something and you work at it, you're going to remember it longer, and you also have to review. It requires both. So okay, we will hold it there for today. Have a great day, everyone.